Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to consist of two very simple recipes. Both of these recipes are going to consist of tortellini. Now most of you have probably eaten tortellini before. If you hadn't, that's okay. Now's a good time to try something new. You can find this in the refrigerated section at your grocery store or on the shelf. I found this on the shelf at Aldi. Most people usually eat tortellini with a marinara sauce, but we're not going to do that today. If you've been around here for very long, then you know that I like to take things and try something a little different, or at least try something that's not too terribly mainstream. So come on, go with me and let's jump into the first recipe using our tortellini. So I'm starting this recipe by putting a pot of water on the stove. I've got it on a high heat and I need it to come to a boil. I'm going to be using half of this package of tortellini. I'm cooking this meal just for me, so just for one person. And I'm only going to use half of it because we're going to use the other half in another recipe tomorrow. So the water's boiling and I'm going to take about half and drop into that boiling water. Okay, we're going to call that about half. We're going to let that cook for about 8 minutes because I want it al dente. I'm going to take the other half of this package and I'm going to put it in a zippy bag and I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator overnight because once opened, you need to put it in the refrigerator. While my tortellini is boiling back there and getting cooked up, I'm going to make me up some chicken broth. I'm going to be using this chicken bouillon. I've got about a quarter cup of water and I'm going to use about a quarter of a teaspoon of this bouillon. I'm just going to get that stirred up in there, mixed all up. I want it to dissolve. Now for this dish, you're also going to need 2 to 3 strips of bacon that's cooked. So you're going to need to be cooking that up while your tortellini is cooking. Unless you're like me, and you know me if you've been around here for a minute, I keep bacon bits in my fridge all the time. And so I'm going to be using this instead of strips of bacon. So I don't need to cook my bacon. It's already cooked. My tortellini has been cooking for about 8 minutes. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in this bowl right here. I'm just going to need it in here long enough to get my sauce made up in this pot back here because I'm not wanting to use 100 different dishes tonight. So, and I'm going to tell on myself, the reason I don't want to use 100 different dishes tonight is because I forgot to turn my dishwasher on today. I was going to turn it on this afternoon and I completely forgot. But that's life. So, you know, there you go. I'm human. I'm going to take just a quarter cup of this pasta sauce and I'm going to set it over here to the side. We're going to reserve that in case we need it. Now the recipe I'm going by tells me that when I cook my bacon and I drain it, to reserve 1 tablespoon of the bacon grease. Well, I didn't cook my bacon up. I'm using bacon bits and that's fine. But I do keep bacon grease in my fridge. Now I'm not going to take a whole tablespoon. I'm probably going to do more like probably a half a tablespoon. And I know it's for flavor. But I'm just going to put that off in my pot back here. And I'm going to let that start melting down. Now once I got my bacon grease all melted down back here, I'm going to take a quarter cup of chicken broth. And I'm going to pour in that pot. Now you're going to need you some of this dry ranch seasoning. You need about a half a tablespoon. And you want to whisk that around in with that bacon grease and your chicken broth until there's no longer any clumps of that in there. Now you want to take you a quarter to a half a cup of heavy whipping cream and add that in. Just get that mixed up in there. Next, you're going to need you some cream cheese. Now you're going to need about 2 ounces of this, so about a quarter of the block of cream cheese. And now this recipe says for you to set it out about an hour before you're going to use it so it can get to room temp. I'm just going to get all this mixed up in here. We're going to let this cream cheese start melting down some. Now we're just going to whiskey until this is all nice and smooth. That's going to take you just a few minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and put me some bacon bits in here. You can wait if you want to till you throw your tortellini back in, but I'm not. Let me just get that stirred up in there. I'm over here making a mess, which is pretty typical. Now don't worry if your sauce isn't very thick yet. It's okay. It's going to thicken up as it cools anyway. So just keep whisking it. Now I'm going to take my tortellini, which is still hot by the way, and I'm going to dump that in this pot. Just going to kind of whisk it around, get it all nice and coated in that sauce. I'm going to switch over to a spoon. And now the recipe don't call for this, but I'm going to throw me in just a little bit of spinach. Just to add some nutrients in and a little color. We'll see if that's enough. If it's not, I'll just put me a little more. I added just a little more spinach in. I do have a quarter cup of pasta sauce right here, and I'm going to put in probably about half of it, so maybe about 1/8 of a cup. I'm going to get that stirred up in there. My tortellini is finished. Now I'm going to get it dished up. Okay, y'all. We're going to taste this. This is a bacon ranch tortellini. So, I've never eaten this. I have eaten tortellini, but not a bacon ranch. And I did add spinach to it. The recipe did not call for that. That's okay. I'm going to take a bite of this. By the way, I used a cheese tortellini for this. So, use whatever you want. Oh yeah. Wow. This is delicious. If you've never tried tortellini in a sauce other than a marinara, you need to try this. This is absolutely delicious. So while you decide what you're going to fix for dinner, I'm going to go eat. I'll see you tomorrow for the next recipe. Today I'm going to be making a breakfast tortellini. So I have the other half of my cheese tortellini, and this is what I'm going to be using. I'm cooking this for one person. This was an 8.8 ounce size. So I used, roughly half of it in the first recipe. For this recipe, you're also going to need some breakfast sausage because you're going to be making a gravy. I'm going to leave the recipe for this breakfast tortellini in the description box below, along with the one that I made right before this one. Now, my gravy is already made, and I used a prepackaged mix to make my gravy, but the recipe has a homemade version. Now, you do it however you want to do it. You can make you a homemade gravy, homemade sausage gravy, or you can do the prepackaged mix like what I did. Now, the other part of this sausage gravy was used in a previous video. I'll link that in a card up at the top somewhere. Now, I don't think I'm going to need all of this, so I'm just going to take part of it, and I'm going to put it in this bowl right here. Now, you can heat yours up if you already have made it previously. I've still got that much left. I'm just going to heat this in the microwave. And, you know, if I need some more, I can always add some more in. My water is boiling, so I'm going to add the rest of my tortellini into the water. I'm going to let that boil for about 8 minutes because I want mine al dente. My tortellini has finished cooking. I have heated my gravy up in the microwave. It's a little thick, I think, so I'm going to put just a little bit of this pasta water. Just, I don't know, a couple of spoons. Just to thin the gravy out just a little bit. I'm going to stir that up in there. Now I'm going to get my tortellini drained. Okay, I've got my tortellini in my pot. It's been drained. I'm going to take my sausage gravy and I'm going to put over in this pot with my tortellini. I don't know if I'm going to need all this, so I'm going to get that mixed up and I'll go from there. I'm going to add a little bit more of my gravy in. I think I'm just going to add the rest of it. Get that stirred around. Let me get this in a bowl. Leave me a comment below and let me know what type of breakfast you like. Do you like a sweet breakfast, a savory breakfast, or somewhere in between? Or no breakfast at all? I eat breakfast, what's considered breakfast food, but I don't eat at what is considered breakfast time. I eat somewhere between, I don't know, it always ranges. Usually no earlier than 10:30. A lot of times I don't eat my first meal till 1. So, you know, some people don't eat breakfast, and that's okay. Now this is optional. You don't have to do this. I'm going to take a little bit of this white cheddar that's shredded. It's thick cut. And I'm just going to sprinkle me a little bit of cheese on top. This looks and smells delicious. So we're going to give it a taste. Okay, y'all. I've got my breakfast tortellini with sausage gravy. You'll hear pitter-patter of little doggy feet walking around. They're trying to figure out what I'm doing this morning. They've already eaten, but whenever food is involved, they try to be up in the middle of it. We're going to give this a taste. I've never had a breakfast tortellini with sausage gravy, so there's a first time for everything. It sounded good. It looks delicious. So I know the gravy's good because I made a breakfast pizza with it. I'm going to leave that linked up here so you can go watch it. Here goes. Oh, that's delicious. This is great. I never would have thought to use tortellini for breakfast, but this is really, really good. Go make you some. It's not that hard to cook for one. I'm gonna go eat.